Okay, you're live. Okay, now we are live. It is 10 sharp and we are live. We are live. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to today's edition. It's another Wednesday morning on Upscaling 5 million African freelancers in 5 years. Good morning once again. Good morning and welcome. Wherever you're joining us from Lagos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, Europe, Canada, America, wherever you are joining us from, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please don't forget to share the link. We're on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook. We are everywhere. Share the link and ask your friends and people who you think will. Hello, Miko Risanin. Good morning to you too. Thank you for joining. And share your link and tell everyone you know. Nemeka, thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome. Please. Oh, from Indonesia. That's coming from Fadila from Indonesia. Abiola, good morning to you. Thank you for joining. Chukuka, thank you for joining. Ushi, I believe John. Sorry if I murdered your name. Thank you for joining. Good morning to you too. Please share the link everywhere. Share the link on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook. We are everywhere. And this is another edition this Wednesday morning on Upscaling 5 million African freelancers in 5 years. And we are about to kick start. From Asaba, Tommy Singh, thank you for joining. Ndufan, I believe that's your name. Thank you for joining. Friday Ian, good morning to you too. Thank you for joining. Do share the link everywhere and just join us. We have our guests already. They are ready to dish out, great tips, information, and they are ready to take on the day. Okay, Whitney, thank you for joining us this morning. Fulani Akpayemi, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Don't forget to drop your questions. You can ask your questions as well and drop your comments as well. We are ready to take on the day. Good morning, sirs, and welcome to Upscaling 5 million African freelancers in 5 years. Good morning, sirs. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good
Pleasure to see
morning.
everybody. Yeah,
Sorry?
it's a pleasure to see everybody.
Yes, 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 it is. It is indeed. David, thank you for joining us. Do share the link with your friends on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook, okay? Thank you. Chineye, good morning to you too. Thank you so much for joining. Please drop your questions and the guests. I'll ask the guests once it's time for questions. All right. So we will begin with Mr. Jonathan Kalon. So I gotta say that we bear the same surname right here. Okay. Mr. Jonathan Colombo is a co-founder and board executive at Global Croft Limited. He's also at Global Croft Medicals, Ruby Unique, and Natural Premium Products, as well as Rubesco Energy. Good morning, sir, and welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Okay, it's great to be here.
All right. So first of all, we need to ask, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's been in the business for a while, how have you been able to combine all of these aspects of your business together, all of them in one? How have you been able to combine everything? Please tell us.
Oh, good question. Okay, thank you to all our listeners and greetings to everyone that is gathered here for whatever part of the world you are gathered. Good question. How have I been able to combine it? I first of all want to give, I think, whatever success I've had, whatever achievements I've done over the years, I think I don't want to take the glory. I give all the glory to the Almighty God. It's if you asked me some 20, 25 years ago, if what I was doing is what if I ever imagined I would do what I was doing, I would tell you you must be crazy. But
Okay.
over the years, it has been quite a journey, and that's the beauty of business, entrepreneurship in Nigeria. I'm a proud Nigerian, and I believe that we have a lot of opportunities. And I will say that over the years, different things we've come into has been as a result of opportunities that we saw, challenges that we saw, and of course, as an entrepreneur, every challenge and opportunity, and also knowing that we want to do something good, not just for Africa, but for our country, Nigeria. And
Mm-hmm.
also, it has been quite a journey, I would say, of course, and we are still on that journey because
Mm-hmm.
you never get to a destination, and success
Yeah.
is a journey. So I'll just say that it's been quite a journey, and I'm very excited to see that what the future holds, because the future
Mm.
is so much brighter than the past. And I
Mm.
see it looking ahead, the next 10, 15, 20 years is going to be greater than the last 20, 25 years. Thank you.
Mm. Great, amen. All right. So, as a business owner and as an entrepreneur who's been in this business for a while, and we living in the era of freelancers and outsourcing certain skills and talents, how were you able to do that, especially in the beginning of your business? How were you able to outsource certain skills? How were you able to, make use of, the outsourcing industry?
Good question. I've used outsourcing for various projects. I believe that no man is an island. I'm a very strong believer in that. No man is an island, and there are various projects that we've gotten over the years, be it in the maybe energy sector or finance or consulting, and we've had to outsource. Definitely, I am someone that believes a lot in see how you can leverage on your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. So, and it has worked for me brilliantly well. I worked, many of the people I've worked with, consultants, different people, freelancers, and whatever you can call them on different projects. I've become some of them have become my lifelong partners, business partners. Some of them we've become very, very good friends. So it has been very good to me over the years, and it's it's an approach that I will still use in the future. I mean, I'll still use in the future. I think it's something. It reduces your overhead, and you just look for whatever project that comes forth. I look for whoever has the skill and expertise to do it, and I go for it. I don't claim to know all the answers. Definitely, I don't know all the answers. So I leverage on people's strengths, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Hmm.
Thank you.
You did mention that you leverage on people's strength, and considering the fact that in recent times, especially since COVID, there has been a rise in the number of freelancers. There has been a rise in the number of a lot of people are acquiring more skills and becoming, taking advantage of remote work, especially around the world, not just in Africa. Now, I want to ask you, sir, do you think that Africans are maximizing the availability of this pool of freelancers, in this industry?
Great and very deep and insightful question. I believe that with the advent of COVID, any negative thing that happens, there's always an offsetting positive. So with advent of COVID has brought a level playing field. Of course, we can see that with the adoption of technology, and we can see that freelancers has become the order of the day. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
we see before COVID, we knew those platforms were there, but due to COVID now, we are hearing things like remote work, and
Yeah.
one of the most success stories of the pandemic is remote work. That means when an employee or somebody can achieve a task anywhere, any place, anytime. It was never, we never, that lexicon was not there before COVID, but now we are seeing freelancing has become, and if you look at Africa, Africa in the global freelancing market, Africa has about 10.1% and is growing. So we can see that there's that avenue that is growing, and with platforms like this sourcing business, which is why I was very excited when I saw things like this. Of course, we have Upwork and different things like that, but sourcing business with the frame of mind to for Africans by Africans. So going back to your question, whether African startups are maximizing, I believe that first of all, there's a I will say no and I will say yes. Why will I say no? I believe that there's so much more that can be done. And why will I say yes? Because many startups are complaining that it's not the lack of personnel, but it's a lack of talent. So I've spoken to different founders, and they tell me, oh, they have roles they want to employ, and they can't see Africans. They have to go to Indonesia. They have to go to Malaysia. They have to go. Why should they have to go there? They don't. Also, let me speak to the freelancers or would-be freelancers that there's a need for upskilling. In the world today, you have to upskill, you have to step up big time. And that is why, let me go back to sourcing business. What the vision of sourcing business is to upskill 5 million African freelancers in 5 years. So what the vision is that grow these people so that they can be equally as good as freelancers you see on Upwork and different platforms like this. And that is why I believe that startups, fine, they are trying their best in a way, but they could do more. Because what they should do is that there needs to be platforms whereby you upskill these people. Some of them need to be upskilled, some of them need to be reskilled, some of them need a total overhaul. And I believe with the right skill and all that, Africans can compete with anybody in the world. Because number one, we have the numbers, we have the drive, and we have the vision. I don't know if that answers the question or
Yes, sir. It does. It does. Thank you so much for that. We're just going to move on to the next guest we have for today, in person of Akintade, Mr. Akintade Akinro. I hope I got that correct.
There's Akintunde Akinro.
Akintude Akinro. All right, you're welcome. So he is a web developer with an interest in WordPress. I'm just going to quickly, before asking you to introduce your, what you do exactly, how you do what you do. Considering the question I just asked Mr. Jonathan right now, do you think that Africans are leveraging, the abundance of freelancers in the industry? Do you think they are leveraging that? Especially coming from your perspective as a web developer, as anyone who is a web developer in this time would most likely be a freelancer working on one of those platforms. Do you think that Africans are leveraging that?
To be honest with you, I think there's so much potential in the talents that we have here in Africa, and we're honestly not taking full advantage of that, because I still see instances where people would rather outsource it to people who are in other countries than actually get talent from here. So I think a lot can actually be done in that aspect or in that regard. We live in a time where we have a lot of talented people in the field of information technology, for example, but yet we still have people who look outside the country when they need an app or when they need a website. And the main reason for this is because some of them feel like Africans or Nigerians are just not good enough in that field, for whatsoever reason. So I feel like a lot more can be done. But like Mr. Jonathan said,
I'm going to interject. Sorry to interject right there. But why do you think that some of these startups or companies don't think that Africans are good enough? Does it have anything to do? I mean, Mr. Jonathan did say that it has something to do with talent. But is it that the Africans themselves are not interested in upskilling or learning this skill, or they just do not have the trust to believe that Africans can do the job?
To be honest with you, I feel like it's due to the fact that we have a few bad eggs. Whenever you have a terrible experience with one particular person, for example, you want him to do your website, or maybe two people, it discourages you from looking into that pot to get another egg to help you do a website. So it's
Okay.
actually something, it's a case of, oh, I've worked with this Nigerian before, he probably ran away with my money, or I worked with somebody else, he didn't
Oh,
get the job done.
okay.
So you get discouraged, and it's understandable, to be honest. But the truth is, we need to start changing our mindset and making sure that a few bad eggs don't discourage us from actually developing and encouraging our own. So I think that that's one of the things that we need to work on here in Africa.
Hmm. Thank you so much for that. And now tell us, how do you how why do you choose to be a web developer, and what's exactly your interest in WordPress? Tell us about that.
Okay, so generally, I chose information technology because of the vision, or should I say, because of the potential of the field. When I say
Okay.
potential, I don't just mean the monetary aspect. We look at
Okay.
information technology, not just website development, but we look at information technology as a field that is slowly becoming a part of every other field. Nowadays, we have the new buzzword, which is fintech. Every it's going to come to a
Mm-hmm.
point where every field is going to have some level of information technology in it.
Okay.
So it's not going to really be a wise decision for you to not be involved or have good knowledge of that field right now. Personally, I studied anatomy, but I found myself moving towards information technology because the
Okay.
truth is, even in the field of technology, even in the field of healthcare, we now have technology playing a major role as well. Now we have biomedical technology, information technology is now playing a huge part. Technology is now playing a huge part in healthcare. And that's how it's going to be in every other field. So that's one of the reasons why I actually chose information technology to start with.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. And in your experience being a web developer and being in the tech space, what would you say, someone who was interested in building a career as a web developer or interested in the tech space, what do they need to do? What's the first thing they need to do?
Okay, first of all, I think you would actually need discipline. A lot of people feel like technology is straightforward, but it's a field that is kind of shaky. Now we have a lot of people who don't really have, like I said, I studied anatomy and I found myself in information technology. Nowadays we have a lot of people who are not really in the tech space, but they're generally just trying to get into that tech space, like myself. So when you're moving or trying to make a transition, you need to actually have the discipline to keep on learning. Now, you also need to keep learning new things because this is going to be very important for you, but you also have to build the ability to learn on your own as well. Because whenever you're going to learn a new field, you might not have a person or a mentor to always guide you. So you need to also have the ability to learn on your own. So these are some of the few things that I think if you're trying to transition, you need to work on yourself with, basically.
So, what are these resources people need to have access to? What are these, resources that they need to use to be able to learn on their own before, having access to mentors and things like that?
All right. So in terms of resources, the first thing you need to do is you need to pick a niche. Don't try to learn so many things all at once. Pick a niche first. When you do pick a niche, it's always best that you get resources regarding those niches. I always say that YouTube is one of the most underrated social media platforms because people are, getting jobs through their knowledge from YouTube. I know a lot of people who didn't go to a proper school, who didn't learn the skill in courses. They just basically went on YouTube and picked resources. There are also tech materials that you can pick up from W3 schools and the likes, but it just majorly depends on the field that you are actually interested in. Then that will definitely guide you into the resources that you should actually look out for.
Mm. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Today. Now, if you're just joining us, this is Upskilling 5 million Africans in 5 years, and it's powered by Source in Business. So if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. Please share the link on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and drop your comments, drop your questions, and let everyone know that you are right here to gain this knowledge that these gentlemen are being so gracious enough to pass on to us. Now, Amiko Risan says, this is exactly the core Jonathan, outsourcing everything you know is not your strength. Okay, and this is also another one from Chukuka, I believe. Okay, uh, okay. Risk, Fadila, this isn't the right place to do that. You would need to be in the right space. This is not the right place to do that. So I would advise that you refrain from doing that. Okay, Chukuka says, Jonathan is right. African startups tend to shy away from using African freelancers. He said that African startups tend to shy away from using African freelancers. So I'm going to ask you, Mr. Akintoday, why do you think that Africans shy away from using African freelancers? I mean, considering the fact that they're both on the same continent, you would think that they would use African freelancers. Why do you think they shy away from that?
Well, we live in a society where a lot of people would rather get things from, would rather import certain things. And I think it's no different
Okay.
with talent. People
Okay.
would just rather, based on preference, have a mindset that it is better to work with people who are outside the country
Hmm.
than who are inside because they feel like they are better. It's also a misconception. But also, a few bad experiences, like I mentioned before, has discouraged people from working with people in and around us. And we feel like,
Hmm.
okay, maybe they're not the right choice for us. And they tend to look outside the country as well to get people to work on certain projects.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons why I feel.
Hmm. All right, Mr. Jonathan, I'm going to come back to you. I mean, from your perspective, what would you say is the reason African startups shy away from using African freelancers?
Okay, thank you. While my Mr.
Akintunde.
Akintunde was speaking, I want to also speak from the angle of the freelancer. You see, one problem. Let me focus on Nigeria because we are
Okay.
Nigerians here on this call. Memon. The one problem with Nigeria, and I see it not just in freelancing, it's a problem that cuts across it. It's become part of our national culture. It's the culture of mediocrity.
Hmm.
And mediocrity affects everything that we do. Now, let me say a phrase. I know you may find this, but mediocrity, people say Nigeria is corrupt. Of course, we know there's a level of corruption. We know that. But mediocrity is worse than corruption. Should I tell you why? The corrupt man knows what he wants and goes for it. But a
Okay.
mediocre, you don't know what you want. And that is
Hmm.
a problem that has crept into the freelance space or technology space, whereby the few bad eggs that Mr. Akintude has said, they
Hmm.
anyhow you hear things. I don't want to say it in local dialect because we are talking internationally here. You hear people say that let us just do it like that. Let's leave it like that. Rather than saying what is global standard, what is the standard,
Okay.
what is quality, which is what
Hmm.
the world wants. The world does not want Nigerian standard. The world
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want African standard. The world wants world standard. So I would say that that cycle of mediocrity needs to be broken. And when
Okay.
we can break that cycle of mediocrity, then we would be able, because Nigerians are talented. I'm telling you, Nigerians, we're one of the most talented people in the world. That is a story for another day. I can talk for 3 hours on Nigerians. But once we can cut that culture of mediocrity out, we will see the full potential of Nigeria. And the day Nigeria wakes up, Africa will never be the same. So,
Hmm.
of course, the potential is there, but we need to kill mediocrity. Mediocrity is
Hmm.
going to affect us. Thank you.
Hmm. All right. So, what do you think, Nigerians can do to kill this mediocrity and, instill in themselves a drive for excellence? What are the things they can do to do that?
Beautiful. First of all, is a change in mindset. Change in mindset. Change begins Change does not begin with the government. Change begins with you and I. The ordinary Nigerian on the street needs to know that for things to change, I have to change. Even up to the lowest person, the janitor, the people who are the lowest of society, then there's what you need to change your mindset about your country. John F. Kennedy said in 1961, he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you do for your country." How can we've been complaining for how many years? Nigeria is 62 years old. How long do we keep complaining? Has the complaining solved the problems? It has not solved the problems. So what we can see that when you complain, the problem is still there. So what you do, you get to work and you see, how can I solve this problem in my own community?
Okay.
Because it starts from the community. Before you start solving the problems of the country, each and every one of us to start solving the problems in our community, in our little localities, in our families. So when we have that total orientation, which I believe is possible, it's possible. I mean, let me just digress a little bit. I'm always amazed at Dubai. If you go to Dubai and read the story of Dubai, 1971 in Dubai, there was only one road in Dubai, just one road. 1971, Nigeria, we had fought the civil war, we were going into the oil boom. Dubai was just starting. And the Sheikh then, Sheikh Maktoum, had a vision. And look at what Dubai is today. Dubai is first world, a desert. Or it had its vision, visionary. And of course, when you have the right leader, right vision, the followers will follow you. And Dubai has gone from oil and gas, they've gone to tourism, now they are going into tech because they want to become the world's tech hub. So that's an example. There are so many examples we can see around us, and I believe that we are on the right track. And that's why, let me go back to this program, Upskilling 5 million African freelancers in 5 years. It's a bold vision. And like we said, Africa is a new frontier. I believe it wholeheartedly.
Oh, wow. I don't know what that was, but Mr. King today.
Frontier.
Okay.
And
okay.
Sorry, can you
We
hear
lost
me
you for
now?
a moment. We lost you for a moment, but yes, you're back.
Oh yes, yeah, it was a network. So I believe that we can change the narrative and we can start doing things well, because in terms of talent we have it, in terms of personnel population we have it. It's just the mindset and the vision to do what is right, and we can compete. We can compete at any level. There's no country in the world that can compete against Nigeria. I believe so. We are as good as anybody in this world.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Mr. Akintede, from your perspective, what do you think that Africans can do to change the narrative, to change the image that Africans have of Africans and, of course, the rest of the world?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Jonathan for that answer. I think it was, spot on, to be honest. But for me personally, I think, one, we have to change our standards. We need to start imbibing the culture, improving ourselves majorly, not having this idea of let me just do it for the sake of it, but, trying to do it intentionally to have an impact. A lot of us just tend to do things for the sake of it. Oh, let me just do the job. But when you have the right mindset, it helps you to actually achieve, what your employers or what the people who are sourcing it out to you actually want to achieve. So these are some things that we need to change. The culture of, making sure that our structures are well in place and things are well in place, everything we do is perfect. We need to start striving for perfection, because it's something that right now I know that we don't do. The average Nigerian man, when he gets 60% of the job done, he's excited, he's happy. To him, he has completed the job. But the mindset of most people who actually want to get the job done in a very good manner is when they get to that 100% mark, that is when they're satisfied. So we need to change that. Not just in tech, but in every area of our lives. We basically have the mindset of just doing things for the sake of it, not really wanting to achieve perfection. So we need to change that as people. We need to actually imbibe it in everything that we do, even in the services that we render. And definitely, I think that problem is going to be solved.
All right, Mr. Jonathan, back to you. Okay, so funding seemed to be a problem, and I'm sure when you were starting your in the business, Mr. Jonathan, you experienced that. Now, I know from your perspective, what your advice to startups, in the process of hiring professionals, considering the fact that they are constrained by finances.
Wow, it's a great question. Funding, hiring, funding is always a major problem. Even for big companies, funding would always be a problem. There's never going to be enough money to do what you want to do. So it has to do with the startups at whatever stage of business that you are in. I would suggest that for someone just starting a startup, maybe you have maybe a founder, maybe a co-founder, two of you. I would suggest that for the first, if possible, if because I don't suggest just starting out and going to the banks. That's a recipe for disaster.
Okay.
You are killing your business before you even start. I'll suggest whatever you can do, bootstrap, see what you can bootstrap for maybe 1, 2 years. Get some level of scalability in the business, and then along the way, you now decide. And for roles, hiring is all about fit. I mean, so that you don't hire people that you don't need. So I would suggest that for a startup just starting, look for the roles that you can do in-house, and roles that you can outsource. Very important. There's no need of carrying overheads. The time will come whereby you might still need to employ, but when starting out, so many things now you can outsource. You can outsource your legal services, you can outsource your accounting, you can outsource your HR, you can outsource so many things. Basically, what you need in-house, founder, co-founder, you have maybe a CTO, chief technology officer, maybe a sales and marketing person. I believe a lot in lean and agile approach. Run fast, no bureaucracy. See what you can do in 2 to 3 years. At the end of 2 to 3 years, you assess and look at how has the business grown. If you feel the business has gotten to the point whereby you need to hire more staff, there's no one size fits all. It has to depend on the organization. You see, okay, we've gained a lot of traction, and we think we need to hire people. Of course, don't hire people because there's cost involved. So whatever person you are hiring, look at the cost and look at the benefits. Do we need to hire this person and all that? And also, there will come a time in business whereby you can see that, okay, I've reached a zenith of what I want. I think right now I'm looking for funding. That's where you start looking for VCs, your venture capitalists. You start looking for your private equity investors or your angel investors. So it's in different stages of business requires different decisions to be taken. And so it now boils down to what's the vision of the founder or the co-founder. Because of course, so it gets to a level in business when you are looking for funding. Of course, funding doesn't come cheap. You might have to give up some equity, and or maybe you get it as a debt. But it just depends on your vision and what you want to achieve going forward. So funding, hiring is an ongoing discussion. I mean, you always be is all even we've been in business for quite a while now, and of course we still have conversations with my team about funding, about hiring. But of course, everything needs to go through the cost benefits matrix to see what do we need and what because like let me use this phrase or not there's good money, there's bad money. There's some funding you'll get to kill the business, and there's some funding you'll get and the business would blossom. So you need to think about it critically as a startup. what do we need at this point in time? If you are hiring, what do we need? What expertise do we need? Can we still outsource it, or do we need the person in-house? So it all comes to decision. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, you asked one part of the question, and the other part is for many startups, you mentioned outsourcing. For many, they want the professional touch. They want the expert in a startup, in their business, but they do not have the resources to, even outsource some of these, outsource it. So what do? How can they overcome that? Because they cannot afford to hire or bring in people who are not professionals or people who do not know in depth, what they're supposed to do. They want to have access to the professionals, to the experts, but then are lacking in the resources they need to bring these people in. So what should these startups do?
Okay, good. Let me give you a practical example. They don't have the resources to hire. I would suggest what they can do is let me try and make it as basic as possible. Take, for example, maybe a tech startup looking to develop a product and they can afford to get developers and all that. Of course, they'll need to outsource developers, and that's why um, that's why I'm very happy about platforms like Sourcing Business, whereby you can talk to developers. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. People, you can sell them the vision of the company. Okay, right now we don't have the funds to hire, but we are ready to XYZ equity in this business. When people when people are sold in on a vision, they don't mind. They can have what you call delayed gratification. You
Okay.
tell the person, okay, for XYZ thing, we are applying on this product or this solution, which is going to come to the
Mm-hmm.
market in 6 months. We don't have the funds to pay you your value in the marketplace, but we're ready to give you 2% of the market value of this product when it comes out in 6 months, and the person is looking at the 2%. If you are going to pay me um, XYZ amount of money in 6 months, it won't be up to the 2%. So it's a conversation that you need to have with them. Of course, it's not a one size fits all, but I'm just giving you a little basic approach that you could use, because funding is always a problem. I mean, funding is a major problem, especially I talk with founders based on some of the work that I do, and many times they tell you funding, funding, funding. Fine. Uh, what can you do for now? Can you bootstrap? Okay, we've bootstrapped everything we can do and all that. Okay, let's see what you can do. Don't wait for perfection. What can you do? Keep launching. They said, what is worth doing well is worth doing poorly until you achieve it. You don't achieve perfection one day. Many of all these great companies that you see, their version 1.0 is not what we are using now. If you look at the Facebooks and all the big solutions that we have today, many of
Mm-hmm.
their earlier versions it's not what we are using today. So there's been a lot of changes over the years. And I'll tell one thing I tell startups, don't get into the mode of analysis paralysis. You're looking for perfection before you launch. Just launch out. And along the way, you keep tweaking and tweaking. So, okay, if that's, does that answer it in a way?
Yes, he answered the question. Yes, he answered the question.
Okay, great. I'm happy.
Okay. Okay. So another one. So after talking about, the freelancers and, startup, now, how important is a virtual space for, freelancers to come in contact, with startups? How important is a virtual space for that mission to happen?
Sorry, can you take that question again? Let me.
Okay. How important is a virtual space? I mean, we know a virtual space is important for the freelancers to meet up with a startup, for there to be a collaboration and working together. So how important is this virtual space in facilitating these meetings?
It's very important. I would say um, if you look at platforms like, if I get your question well, if you look at platforms like Upwork and different things, foreign platforms, of course, they are platform whereby you engage freelancers. And I think it is a space, a virtual space is as important because how do these organizations on some form of platform whereby they can reach you? How do you showcase your expertise? And of course, people want to know what's your what's your track record and all that. Of course, it's you don't get the big projects in one day. You start small, everything starts small. So before you start getting the $10,000, $10,000 and different things like the $100,000 like a Miko is getting now, you started small. You do jobs of $10, you do jobs of $5, and you grow. You build competence. Same thing to in business. So I believe that the virtual space is very important, and platforms like this, Sourcing Business, which has uh, um, a place whereby we're upskilling 5 million African and freelancers in 5 years. I believe is a very good virtual space that going forward is going to be a major hub for people all over the world looking for African freelancers. Thank you.
And speaking of sourcing business, do you think it's a good deal for African freelancers? Sourcing
Very good
business, do you
deal.
think it's a good deal?
It's a very good deal. Very good deal. And I see the trajectory of what is happening. You can always tell when a venture will be successful from day one. Number one, you look at the vision of the founders. What do they want to achieve? Is it is it scalable? Is it something? What's the impact? And I've seen it, and I know it's something that's going to be very impactful. And looking at the level of freelancing, it's predicted that by 2030, freelancing would account for 80% of all the jobs in the world. By 2030 is just 8 years time, and freelancing is growing. So this is the right. I believe this is the right time that platforms like Sourcing Business is coming on board, and what the it's only we have not even scratched the surface of what is possible because I believe there's so much potential that we can do, especially for the African continent. Very, very important. So,
Okay,
and,
Mr.
and that's
Jonathan, good
why.
morning, sir.
Okay, Mr. Femi.
Good morning. I want to
Oh, good
appreciate you
morning.
for all the things you've been doing for us, from the mentorship, even starting from the launching. You have been very supportive, and your leadership has been very inspiring. You've mentioned quite a number of things that I want to actually led me to a question. You've spoken to the aspect of mediocrity. You've touched the aspect of the issue of fundings and how startups should try to manage their way through uh, available resources. Now, let's come to this issue of uh, mediocrity, and let's look at the issue between freelancing and contract staff. There is this major issue with human resources in Nigeria, especially, if not Africa, whereby organizations that actually have this funding, like banks, actually make use of contract staffs. And when you look at their journey, somehow, some of them work 4 or 5 years, and you realize that they couldn't upskill, they couldn't develop themselves, they couldn't grow, and they are terribly underpaid. Whereby we also have this large population of skilled young professionals, and even these so-called contract staff. Some of them are masters holders. So how do we bridge the gap? How do we bring the right changes? Um, you talk about the father. This thing has to do with national, I mean, is it orientation or mindset and stuff? So how do we address these issues, whereby we can be able to eliminate the issue of the middlemen who will collect 100,000 naira per staff and pay contract staff 40,000 naira per month? How do we address it, please?
Thank you, Mr. Femi. The issue of freelancing and contract staff. It's something I've watched over the years, and I always feel, of course, I don't want to mention organizations. I go to a few organizations and I can tell who is contract staff and I can tell who is full staff. But yet, what we find is that the contract staff um, they are like slaves. Sorry to use the word. They are slaves in the organization. They do all the work for peanuts. But of course, that's the reality of the country that we live in. They say there are no jobs, and you see somebody in contract staff working donkey hours, and when you find out what's their pay package, it's peanuts. Coming on to freelancing, I believe that freelancing is a more excellent way. Because why am I saying so? Freelancing, you get to choose your hours. Contract staff, you are there. You are like a staff, or you are contract. If you come there maybe 7 o'clock and all that, you work till 6 and all that, and you are paid peanuts. And like you said, there are a lot of
They are
masters.
actually not staffs, you know. That's the point. They're actually not
Yeah,
staffs.
they are not. No, they are not staff. They are.
They keep them,
But
they
it's
control
just
them like they are staffs, but they are not staffs. They said it at the time they want to leave them, they tell them you were never staffs. You were
yes.
freelancers.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
But
But
they
I believe
instead of them
that
to work remotely and have their time, have their freedom, be able to grow themselves and even multitask, they keep them in their
exactly,
own offices. They won't
exactly,
let them work
exactly.
remotely.
Exactly. So that's why freelancing is a better approach, because freelancing, you get to choose your hours. You get to choose. You are doing a job for somebody for 3 hours per day. That's it. You have a this. Okay, for this job, I'm working 3 hours per day for you and all that. And then you can do multiple jobs in in a day, two, three, four, 5 jobs in a day. Depends on your schedule, depends on your this thing. So I believe that freelancing, many of them should start looking at freelancing because many of them are talented. Like you said, many of them are endowed. And the beauty of it is okay, they wonder freelancing, what do I do? What do people always want to know? What do I do? Now you are telling me freelancing. We have platforms like sourcing business. Do you need to be trained? Do you need to learn skills? We can upskill you, we can reskill you, we can do a total overhaul, and you are not paying a penny for it. I mean, how much more can it get? So if there's anybody out there on this program and you believe that you have skills and where you feel you don't feel you are getting to your full potential, please have a look at sourcing business. They have a very good program for freelancers, would-be freelancers, whatever skills you want to learn. So many things, even digital marketing, cyber security, so many things that you can learn on the platforms. And I'm even wondering, we should have more platforms like this. We should have more platforms. But anyways, I don't see anyone in Africa. I'm only saying sourcing. I may be wrong, but we should have more platforms whereby people can leverage and come on these platforms, and from there you have like a stepping stone, because they keep saying, oh, I don't think I can compete on Upwork and all that, but you have sourcing business. Do you need to be skilled? Do you have skills? So come here to this platform. So Mr. Femi, I don't know if or you want me to go further, if that
That
answers
was
the question.
brilliant. Thank you so much. That was good.
Great.
All right.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. Mr. Tunde.
Yes.
All right. So the question I have for you is this, right? In your field as a web developer, right? What does it require? What do people need? What do potential freelancers need in order to attain the level of being an expert in your field?
Okay, to be a web designer, you have to
Yes.
have a good eye for design, majorly. You need to be
Must you have a
educated.
great eye for design? What if you don't have a great eye for design, but you want to be a web developer?
Then you can go towards the back end development. All right.
Okay.
Then you
Mm-hmm.
have to have a good understanding of logic. All right, because it's divided into two, front end and the back end. With front
Mm.
end, you have to have a good eye for design. You need to have good understanding of color blend, how to use
Okay.
quality pictures, how to use your spacing and all of that. But as a back-end developer, you need to work well with logic, all right? Because the back end covers, the logical aspect of everything that you're doing. So you need to be able to work on a lot of logic and logical scenarios and be able to
Mm.
program it into life. But this shouldn't be intimidating to you. I always advise you, first things first, start with a programming language. There's so many
Okay.
programming languages out there, but it's always advisable that you learn at least one. Stick with that programming language, and then from there you can decide what you want to do with that programming language. So if you're learning Python, for example, there's so many possibilities out there. You can go into artificial intelligence, you can go into web development, you can go into machine learning, and and you can also go into data science as well. If you're
Okay.
learning JavaScript, you can learn so many frameworks like React Native, and and some runtime environments as well, like Node.js, Vue.js, and a lot of things. So basically, it's all about starting with a programming language and then building yourself with that programming language, building your skill in the field of, this is not just web design. This is basically all round. This is for information technology in general.
Mm,
Building your skill within that programming language, and the sky's your limit. Also, you need to learn on your own as well. There's so many materials out there, but a lot of people are not yet very good when it comes to learning. Now, what I'm saying is, you should get a good, mentor or a good coach or a good place where you can learn. But also on the side, you need to also pick
learn on
up a
your
few
own.
things on your own, because they can't teach you everything. That's where sourcing business comes in. Sourcing business, with the vision of upskilling African freelancers. All right, you have the opportunity to actually get mentored, get coached, get trained, and then on the side, you can then use your time to actually build yourself within that programming language or that skill set that you have chosen. And that's why YouTube is one of my favorites, because there's so many case scenarios on YouTube for anything that you're looking for, anything you want to learn, you can get it from there as well. So those are just
Mm,
basically some of the few points I would give if you want to grow in the field.
mm. That's great. What about the challenges that are, that can be found in this niche? Challenges and opportunities that potential freelancers in web developing, information technology space can take advantage of.
Okay, in terms of opportunities, I think one of the opportunities is exposure. You get the
Okay.
opportunity to work with people outside the country. That's where the virtual space actually comes in handy. With
Okay.
social business, you're going to be exposed to a lot of people outside Nigeria. You're going to have the opportunity to work with people, meet people from different parts of the world. Also, other freelancing platforms, you can also do that. But sourcing business also gives you that opportunity as well. So it's one of the great things about freelancing. You get to work for people all over the continent, all over the country, all over the world. Also, it's the monetary aspect as well. There's a lot of money in the field, so the opportunities are endless. All right, as a web designer or developer, you can become a web content specialist. You can become a web designer. You can become a web developer. You can become so many things. If you decide that you want to do a 9 to 5, you can also decide you want to set up your company and build websites for people. There's a lot of money in that aspect as well. So it definitely has a lot of opportunities. Now, in terms of challenges, the number one challenge that most tech talents face is that whenever you're working with YouTube, for example, there is no good learning curve. All right. So we basically don't learn the right way. And that can discourage us, that can affect us. Also, again, that's where sourcing business comes in, because as a trainer, it is our responsibility to ensure that you are actually learning with the right learning curve, because it's something that
Mm-hmm.
is kind of, it can be difficult to some people. So when you
Mm-hmm.
have wrong learning curve, you can even be discouraged even more. And with the right learning curve, you can learn things a lot faster. So that's the number one challenge that most people who are coming into the field tend to face, basically.
Hmm. Fantastic. That's great. Okay, so how would you rate the committee of your mentees on the ongoing mentorship? And what are people who are potential mentees to expect from you on the program?
To be honest with you, I've been honored to be a part of, to be a trainer of most of the mentees that I have within the field of web design.
Okay.
I'm very impressed, and obviously I'm very encouraged. A lot of them have the willingness to learn and the willingness to grow as well. So that has definitely encouraged. I'm the kind of person who I love development. I love when I see development in myself, and I love when I see development in other people. So I love it when you start from a certain stage and you slowly work on yourself. So that's one of the things that I know you can look forward if you're going to be working with me and working with some of the other trainers. You're going to be developed, definitely. You're going to learn something from the project. You're going to learn something from sourcing business. You're going to build yourself. I would basically not let you go until I know that I'm comfortable that you actually know how to do what it is that you have signed up for. So that's one of the things you can expect, basically.
Wow, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. So you're sure that if you sign on, you are sure that you would eventually get to know what you're doing before the program is over. So it's such
Yeah.
an encouragement. Thank you, Mr. Tunde. Mr. Jonathan.
Yes, okay.
Oh, okay, back to you. All right. So, what is your current position in the ongoing Source in Business Mentorship Program?
Okay, sorry, I missed that question. My network
Oh, okay.
fell.
So what is your current role in the ongoing Source in Business Mentorship Program?
Oh, I'm currently a mentor on the program, and it has been
Okay.
quite a very good experience. I've
Mm,
had the privilege to engage with the mentees in mentorship sessions, and
okay.
I'm quite excited at the enthusiasm of the mentees, and I
Mm,
know that it's going to get better. And I'm quite impressed with the entire setup of the program, and so we are here, and we are building something good,
that's great.
something we are building something great for the African continent, and something great for Nigeria.
That's great. All right. So, from your perspective, where do you see this initiative in the next 3 years?
The next 3 years are going to be quite exciting. I Between now and 2025, it's going to be quite exciting because
Mm,
I'm going to see a lot of critical mass coming on board. The sourcing business is going to be huge. I see it
mm,
expanding even beyond Nigeria, West African sub-region, going into East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, Southern Africa. The over we have over a lot of young people on the continent looking for opportunities, and I believe sourcing business is going to be the go-to platform for this continent. So the next 3 years are going to be quite an exciting journey. The next
mm,
5 to be amazing. We are going to.
great.
So just come on the ride with us. I believe
Fantastic.
you enjoy the.
Fantastic. All right, we're pressed for time, Mr. Today. Just finally, before you go, what do you advise to young people who are interested in, getting involved in this particular, being freelance web developer freelancers?
So my first advice is if you want to go into freelancing, all right, the first stage or the early stage might be difficult and discouraging, but don't be discouraged. Like Mr. Jonathan also said, before you can start making the tens of thousands of dollars, you need to start with the $10 first. So the first few jobs you get on freelancing can be a bit discouraging, but trust me, it is a field that is very lucrative. All right, being able to work in the freelancing space, you can actually earn a lot of money for yourself. And trust me, everybody's goal these days is to earn in dollars, and you can do that through this opportunity. So definitely, that's one of the things I would like to say.
Mm. All right, we're pressed for time. Thank you so much, Mr. Akintunde Akinro. If you're just joining us, he is a web developer with also interest in WordPress. We've also been speaking to Mr. Jonathan Okalowa, who is the co-founder and board executive of Global Croft Limited and Global Medical Unique Ruby Unique Natural Premium Products and Rubesco Energy. Now, just before we go, we're just going to see if we have some more questions for people. From this one, it says the fear of the unknown makes startup look away from freelancers. That's coming from Philip Omatika. Mr. Jonathan, you might want to respond to that.
Yes, the fear of the unknown. It's a nobody. Life itself is a risk. So, but
Mm,
like they say, it's fortune favors the bold. You've got to whatever success that we see today of people that they've succeeded. They've been taking bold steps. So you have to take bold steps and change the narrative. So fear of the unknown. If you don't take that step, you will never know what is there. So even if you make a mistake, you have learned experience. So nobody should be afraid to take that step. Just take that step. If you have analyzed what you need to do, take that step and go for it. Thank you. So, okay, did you hear me?
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jonathan. It's been a wonderful time. Mr. Kinro, how are you?
I'm very well, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
for
for your
having me.
time.
Thank you.
And I would just want to say that both of you have been contributing greatly to what we are doing on sourcing business. Mr. Jonathan being a mentor, and then Mr. Kiro being a trainer on the platform. I've been following your classes. It's been very awesome, very amazing. You're one of the best trainers we have currently this train. So I would just say that thank you so much. Let's
Thank
continue
you.
to do what we're doing for Africa. In the end, we'll all be glad we did. So
Thank
thank
you,
you,
sir.
sirs. Have a wonderful day.
You too, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Femi. Pleasure once again to be on this.
Thank you. You're welcome.